All right, the Number Devil, a mathematical adventure. All right, the first night. Robert was tired of dreaming. I always come out looking dumb, he said to himself. For example, he would dream of being swallowed by an ugly fish, and even after it was over, he could smell the fish's awful stench. Or he'd be sliding down an endless slide, faster and faster, and no matter how many times he cried out, "Stop," or "Help," on he went until he finally woke up drenched in sweat. His dreams also played tricks on him. Whenever he wanted something really bad, once he had his heart set on a racing bike with 28 gears, and he dreamed that the bike was waiting for him in the basement. It was an unbelievable detailed dream. The bike had a purple metallic finish. It was parked next to the wine cabinet. He even knew the sequence of the combination lock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He couldn't forget that now, could he? When in the middle of the night, still woozy with sleep, he staggered down the basement in his pajamas, and what did he find next to the wine cabinet? A dead mouse. That was a low blow. Eventually, Robert came up with a way of dealing with the tricks in his dreams played on him. The minute one started, he would think, without waking up, "It's just another one of those yucky fish. I know just what's going to happen. It's going to gobble me up. But I also know it's only a dream, because only in dreams can fish swallow a person." Or he'd think, "Here I go sliding again, but there's nothing I can do about it. I can't stop. I'm not really sliding anyway." And when the fantastic racing bike came back to haunt him, or a computer game he couldn't live without, there it was, right next to the telephone. He knew it was just a hoax. He didn't even look at the bike. He turned away. But no matter what he did, the dreams kept coming back and troubling him. And then suddenly, one night, there was the Number Devil. Robert was thrilled to be free of the hungry fish and the endless slide. This time he dreamed of a meadow. The funny thing was that the grass grew so tall that it seemed to reach the sky, or at least over his head. And what did he see but a giant beetle glaring at him, a caterpillar perched on a blade of grass, and an elderly man the size of a grasshopper bobbing up and down on a spinach leaf and staring at him with bright and shiny eyes. "Who are you?" Robert asked. The man responded with a surprisingly loud voice. "I am the Number Devil." Robert was in no mood to put up with nonsense from a pipsqueak like that. "First of all, there's no such thing as a Number Devil." "Is that so? How can you be speaking to me if I don't exist? And besides, I hate everything that has to do with numbers." "And why is that, may I ask?" "You sound as though you never went to school, or maybe you are a teacher yourself. If 2 pretzel makers can make 444 pretzels in 6 hours, how long does it take 5 pretzel makers to make 88 pretzels?" "How dumb can you get?" said Robert. "A colossal waste of time, if you ask me. So get going, scram, shoo." But instead of doing what he was bidden, the Number Devil made an elegant leap and landed smack next to Robert, who was staging a sit-down strike in the tall grass. "Where does your pretzel tail come from? School, I bet." "Where else?" said Robert. "Mr. Beckham, he's our new teacher. Well, he's always hungry, though he's got plenty of fat on him. Whenever he thinks we're not looking because we're so into problems he gives us, he sneaks these pretzels out of his briefcase and wolfs them down." "I see," said the Number Devil with a wary smile. "I have nothing against your Mr. Brockle, but that kind of problem has nothing whatever to do with what I'm interested in. Do you want to know something? The most genuine mathematicians are bad at sums. Besides, they have no time to waste on them. That's what pocket calculators are for. I assume you have one." "Sure, but we're not allowed to use them in school." "I see," said the Number Devil. "That's all right. There is nothing wrong with a little addition and subtraction. You never know when your battery will die on you. But mathematics, my boy, that's something else again." "You're just trying to win me over," said Robert. "I don't trust you. If you give me homework in my dream, I'll scream bloody murder. That's child abuse. If I'd known you were going to be such a scaredy cat, I wouldn't have entered your dream. All I want is to perk you up a little, and since I'm off duty most nights, I thought I'd spare you those endless slides you've been going down. Gosh, thanks. I'm glad you understand, but I hope you understand that I won't let you take me for a ride. Suddenly the number devil leaped up out of the grass, a pipsqueak no more. That's no way to talk to the devil, he shouted, his eyes sparkling, and he trampled the grass until it was all flat. I'm sorry, said Robert meekly, though the whole thing was getting weirder and weirder. But if talking about numbers is as simple as talking about movies or bikes, why do they need their own devil? You've hit the nail on the head, my boy, the devil replied. The thing that makes numbers so devilish is precisely that they are simple, and you don't need a calculator to prove it. You need one thing and one thing only. 1. With 1, I am speaking of the numeral, of course. You can do almost anything. If you are afraid of large numbers, let's say 5,723,812, all you have to do is start with 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and go on until you have 500 million, etc. You can't tell me that's too complicated for you, can you? Any idiot can see that. Right, said Robert. And that's not all, the Numble Devil added, picking up the walking stick with a silver knob and twirling it in front of Robert's nose. When you get to 5 million, etc., you can go on indefinitely. There's an infinite number of numbers. Robert didn't quite know whether to believe him. How can you be so sure? He asked. Have you ever tried? Can't say I have, the devil answered. It would take too long, for one thing, and it makes no sense anyway. It would be a waste of time. Robert didn't see why. Either I can count to the end, which case there is no such thing as infinity, and there is no end, and I can't count to it. Wrong, the Number Devil shouted, his mustache quivering, his eyes bulging, his face turning red with rage. What do you mean, wrong? Robert asked. You nincompoop. Tell me how many pieces of chewing gum do you think have been chewed to this day? I have no idea. Guess. Billions, said Robert. If you take my friends Al, Betsy, Charlie, and the rest of the kids in my class, and in the city, the country, the world, trillions. At least, said the Number Devil. Okay, now let's pretend that everyone's gone on chewing spree, and we're down to the last piece of chewing gum. I pull another one out of my pocket, the last one that I've saved for myself, and what have we got? All those trillions of chewed pieces of chewing gum plus 1. Do you see what I mean? I don't really need to count them. All I need is a recipe to take care of anything that comes along, and that I have. After thinking over that the Number Devil had said, Robert was forced to admit that he had a point. By the way, the reverse is true as well, the Number Devil added. The reverse? What do you mean? Simple, said the Number Devil with a grin. Just as there are infinitely large numbers, there are infinitely small numbers. And an infinite number is infinitely small numbers. And so saying, he twirled his walking stick like a propeller in Robert's face. I'm starting to feel dizzy, thought Robert. It was the same feeling he had on the slide. Stop, he shouted. Why so jittery, Robert? The Number Devil asked the Number Devil. It's perfectly harmless. Look, I'll just pull another piece of chewing gum out of my pocket. And he did. Only it was as long as a ruler, hard as a rock, and a strange shade of purple. You call that chewing gum? Robert asked. Chewing gum of your dreams, the Number Devil replied, and I'm going to share it with you. Watch carefully now. As long as it's whole, it's my chewing gum. One piece, one person. And sticking the piece of chalk, also a strange shade of purple, to the end of his walking stick, he said, Here's how we write it. 1/1. He traces 2 1s in the sky, the the way planes write sky advertisements. The purple numbers float for a while against the bank of white clouds, then melt slowly like a scoop of raspberry ice cream. Cool, Robert said. What would I get? Uh, what I wouldn't give to have a stick like that. Oh, it's nothing special, though it does write on anything: clouds, walls, screens. I never need a notebook or a briefcase, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to chewing gum. If I break this into two, you have a half and I have a half. One gum, two people. The gum goes on top, the people on the bottom. Now your friends want some too, of course. Al and Betsy. As you like. And let's say Al asks you for gum and Betsy asks me for gum. And we share equally. That means we get a quarter. So we have 1 over 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. But that's just the beginning. Everyone else wants a piece. And the rest of the class and the rest of the city. So each of us 4 have to break our pieces into fourths. Our fourth into half, and then that will be half, and then half, and half, and half, and so on, until the cows come home, said Robert, till the pieces are so tiny that you can't even see them with the naked eye. Be it as it may, we go on halving them until the 6 billion people on Earth have all had their share. But then come the 600 billion mice, and they all want theirs. In other words, we'll never come up to the end of it. Meanwhile, he had been writing an endless row of purple ones along the sky. You'll fill the whole world up if you go on like this, cried Robert. Well, the number devil said, puffing himself up, I'm only doing it for you. You're the one who's afraid of numbers. You're the one who wants everything simple so you won't get mixed up. But all those ones get so boring after a while. I don't think it's simple. It's just that all those ones give me a headache. They actually make things more complicated than they are. Well, well, said the number devil, clearing the sky with a casual wave of his hand. So you agree we need something less clumsy than 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Numbers, for instance, which is why I invented them. You expect me to believe that you invented numbers. Me and a few others. It doesn't matter exactly. Who exactly? Why are you so suspicious? What do you say I show you how to make all numbers out of 1? Okay, how? Simple. I start as follows. 1 times 1 equals 1. And I go on to 11 times 11. I bet you need a calculator for that. Don't be silly, said Robert. 11 times 11 is 121. See, said the number devil. You've just made a 2 out of nothing but ones. Now try this. 111 times 111. That's too hard. I can't do that in my head. Then use the calculator. My calculator? You don't think I'd take it to bed with me, do you? Then use this one, he says, pressing one in Robert's hand. It had a funny feel to it, slimy like dough, and it was a sickly shade of green, but it worked. Robert entered 1 times 1 times 1, 101, 111 times 111, and got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Cool, said Robert. Now we have 3. Right, just keep going, Robert. So Robert entered the following: 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 times 1, 1, 1, 1 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 1, 1, 1 times 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good, said the number devil, patting Robert on the shoulder. I'm sure you've noticed that not only do you get a new number each time, you get a number that reads the same forward and backwards, like Anna and Toot and Rotator. Robert thought that this was a pretty good trick, and so he tried 6 ones as well, and it worked. But when he got to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 times 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, the calculator gave up the ghost. To Robert's surprise, it suddenly went pfft and melted down into a sickly green goo. Yuck, said Robert, wiping the green mess from his fingers. All you need is a bigger calculator or a computer. A computer would spit out the answer in no time. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Robert thought that the number devil was a bit too confident. Maybe he was just bluffing. Robert decided to take a chance and said, "You haven't tried it with 1 times 1, have you?" "No, can't say I have." "Well, I bet it doesn't work." The number devil started doing the problem in his head, but his face turned bright red again and swelled up like a balloon. Was it because he was angry, Robert wondered, or was it because the problem was hard? "Wait a second," the number mumbled. "I can't seem to come up with anything. Darnation." "You were right. It doesn't work." "How did you know?" "I didn't. I don't think I'm crazy enough to try that problem like you do. I was just guessing." "Guessing? Guessing's not allowed in mathematics. Mathematics is an exact science." "But when you said that numbers don't stop, that they go on until the cows come home, is that a guess, wasn't it?" "How dare you? What are you anyway? A beginner? A rank amateur? And you want me to teach me my trade?" He grew bigger and fatter with every word. He started huffing and puffing. Robert was frightened. "You pinhead, you pipsqueak, you stuck-up little numbered midget," he screamed, and no sooner had the number devil got to the last word out, he burst with a great bang. Robert woke up, and he had fallen out of bed and was a little dizzy, but he laughed to think he had outwitted the number devil. The second night. Robert was sliding, the same old story. It started the minute his head hit the pillow and he couldn't stop. This time he was sliding along a tree. "Don't look down," he thought, clinging to the tree for dear life and sliding on and on. Then all at once he landed with a plop on a soft bed of moss. He heard a giggle, and who did he see but the number devil, perched on a velvet brown mushroom, smaller than Robert had remembered, and staring down at him with shiny eyes. "How did you get here?" he asked Robert. Robert pointed to the tree trunk, which stretched as far as the eye could see. But it was not alone. There was a whole forest of them, and they weren't so much trees as ones. He had landed in a forest of ones. But that was not all. The air hummed with the tiny fly-like numbers dancing in front of his nose. He tried to shoo them away, but there were too many. Twos and threes and fours and fives and sixes and sevens and eights and nines kept brushing against him. Robert had always hated moths and gnats and couldn't stand having the beasties around. "Are they bothering you?" asked the number devil. He put his hand to his mouth and blew them all away with a pff. Suddenly the air was clear of everything but the forest of ones reaching up to the sky. "Have a seat, Robert," said the number devil. Robert was surprised to find him so friendly. "Where? On a mushroom? Why not? But I'd feel silly. Where are we, anyway? In a picture book? Last time you had sat on a spinach leaf, and now you're on a mushroom. I seem to remember something like that in a book I once read. The mushroom in Alice in Wonderland, perhaps. But what's the connection between the made-up story and mathematics?" "The kind of connection you make when you dream, my boy. You don't think I was behind all those flies, do you? No, I'm wide awake. You're the one in bed dreaming. Now, what do you say? Are you going to stand there forever?" Robert saw that had to do something, so he clambered into the nearest mushroom. It was enormous, and except for a few bumps of soft and cozy as an armchair. "How do you like it?" "It's fine," said Robert. "I just wonder who came up with the number flies and the forest of ones. I couldn't have. Not in my wildest dreams. If it could only have been you." "And if it was," the number devil preening himself on the mushroom, "there's still something missing." "What?" "Nothing, I mean, zero." He was right. There hadn't been a single zero among all the flies. Why? Because zero was the last number to be discovered. Which isn't surprising, given that zero is the most sophisticated of numbers. Here, look. And finding a space between two tree-high ones, he wrote some letters in the sky with his walking stick. MCM. "Tell me, when were you born, Robert?" "Me? 1986. Robert said a bit reluctantly. MCM. LXXXVI, wrote the number devil. I know what those are. Those are old numbers you sometimes find in cemetery, and they come from the ancient Romans, who had a tough time of it. But by the way, partly because their numbers were so hard to read. Though this one is easy, though. I. 1, said Robert. And this? The X? X is 10. Right. And this, my boy, is the year you were born. MCM LXXXVI. The first M means 100 or 1000. The C is 100. But because it comes before the second M, you must subtract it to get 900. The L is 50, the X is 10. If you add them together, you get 80. V is 5, which when you add our friend the 1, you get 6. So this is 1000 plus 900 plus 80 plus 6. Gosh, that's awful complicated. All right, and you know why? Because the Romans had no zero. I don't see the connection. Besides, what's so great about zero? Zero means nothing, which is precisely what is so brilliant about it. But why even call it a number? Nothing doesn't count. Don't be so sure. Remember how we divided up the little piece of chewing gum among all those billions of people and hundreds of billions of mice, and how the portions got so small in the end that you couldn't even see them, not even with a microscope? Well, we could have gone on forever without reaching zero. We'd have come closer and closer, but we would never made it. So we've got to try something else. Minus, for instance. Yes, that should do the trick. He stretched out his walking stick and tapped the end of the ones, of one of the ones. It shrank and shrank until it stood meekly and manageable at Robert's feet. Go at it, said the number devil. What do you mean? Try the minus. 1 minus 1 equals. Well, 1 minus 1 is 0, said Robert. Everyone knows that. You see? You see how necessary 0 is? You can't do it without it. But why do we need to write it? If nothing is left, why not just leave it blank? Why invent a number for something that doesn't exist? Try this then. 1 minus 2 equals. Well, that's easy, said Robert. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. Right. But look what you get without 0. The difference between 4 and 3 is 1. Between 3 and 2 is 1. Between 2 and 1 is 1. And between 1 and minus 1, 2. Which means there must be a number missing between 1 and minus 1. That tricky little 0. I told you we couldn't do without it. That brings us back to the Romans. They reckoned they could, and look what happened. Instead of 1986, they had to fiddle with all those M's and C's and L's and X's and V's. The Romans had to give each number a different letter, all because they didn't have a 0. But what's that got to do with the chewing gum and the minus? Forget the chewing gum. Forget the minus. Zero's really beauty lies elsewhere. But you'll need to use your head to appreciate it. Are you up to it, or are you too tired? No. As long as I'm not sliding, I'm fine. In fact, I like it here on the mushroom. Good. Then let me give you a little problem to solve. Why is he suddenly being so nice? Robert wondered. I bet he's got something up his sleeve. But all he said was, fire away. The number devil asked. 9 plus 1 equals 10, Robert answered like a shot. Is that all? And how do you write it? I haven't got a pen. Then skywrite it. Here, take my walking stick. 9 plus 1 equals 10. Robert wrote in purple cloud script. 1 and 0, the number devil said. 1 plus 0 does not equal 10. Oh, come off it, Robert shouted. I didn't write 1 plus 0. I wrote 1 and 0. That's 10. And why, may I ask, is that 10? Because that's the way you write it. And why do you write it that way? Why, Robert moaned. You're getting on my nerves. Want me to tell you, the number devil asked, leaning back leisurely on his mushroom. A long silence followed. Fine, go ahead, Robert blurted out when he couldn't bear it any longer. Simple. It comes from hopping. Hopping? Robert said scornfully. What's that supposed to mean? Numbers don't hop. Numbers hop if I tell them to hop, the number devil replied. Don't forget who you're dealing with. All right, Robert said. Just tell me what you mean by hopping. Gladly. Let's go back to square one, or rather the number 1. 1 times 1 equals 1. 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. Tack on as many as you like and you'll still get 1 for your answer. Sure, but what's the point? You'll see what I'm trying to do the same thing with 2. Okay, said Robert. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. Wow, that goes fast. As if I go much farther, I'll need my calculator. And it goes even faster if you start with 5. Why don't you try it? 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 is 625. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 is 3,125. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 is 15,625. Whoa, Robert shouted. Why do large numbers make you so jumpy? I can assure you that the most largest numbers are perfectly harmless. Says you, said Robert. Besides, I don't see the point in multiplying 5 by itself over and over. I'm coming to that. You know what the number devil does instead of 5 up to 1 equals 5. 5 to the second power equals 25. 5 to the third. Instead of writing all those boring 5s, he writes, and so on. 5 to the first, 5 to the second, 5 to the third, and in other words, I make numbers hop. Now do you see? Do the same with 10. It's easy as pie. You can throw your calculator away. Make the 10 do 1 hop, and it remains exactly as 10 to the first power is 10. Make it hop twice, you get 100. Make it hop 3 times, you get 1,000. So if I make it hop 5 times, Robert says, I get 100,000. Once more, I get 1,000,000. And so on till the cows come home, the number devil said. Simple, eh? That's the beauty of 0. It lets you hold a space and move on. You can always tell a number's value by its position. Farther to the left of it is, the more it's worth. Farther to the right, the less. When you write 555, you know that the last 5 is worth exactly 5 and no more. The next to the next one is worth 5 times more. That is 50, and the first number is worth 100 times the last one, and that's 500. And why? That's because it's hopped to the front. Now the 5s of the ancient Romans could never do anything but 5s. Why? Because the Romans didn't know how to hop. And why didn't they know how to hop? Because they had no 0 to keep places, which meant they ended up with monstrosities like M, C, M, L, X, 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 V, I. So rejoice, my boy. You're much better off than the Romans. With the help of a friend 0 and a bit of hopping, you can produce any number, big or small, any number you please. 786, for instance. But I don't need 786. Really? Wow, you're brighter than that. Try the year you were born, 1986. The number devil started growing again. His mushroom followed suit. Well, what are you waiting for? He bellowed. Get a move on. There he goes again, Robert thought, getting him worked up about something, and he's impossible, worse than Mr. Brockle. He carefully wrote a large 1 in the sky. Wrong, the number devil screamed. Dead wrong. How did I wind up with a fool like you? I told you to produce the number, not scribble it down. Robert would have given anything to wake up. I'm not going to put up with this, he thought, watching the number devil's head swell up and turn redder and redder. The end, the number devil called down to him. Robert stared back, completely at loss. Start at the end, not the beginning. If you say so, said Robert, who was in no mood to argue. He erased the 1 and wrote a 6 in its place. Finally, you have caught on. Well, then, we may proceed." "No problem," said Robert, worried. "Though I'd appreciate it if you didn't fly off the handle over every detail." "Sorry, but what do you expect? I'm the number devil, not Santa Claus." "How do you like my 6?" The number devil shook his head and wrote, 6 times 1 equals 6. "But that's the same," Robert protested. "You'll see what I have in mind. Now comes the 8, and don't forget to hop." Suddenly Robert did what he had in mind. He wrote 8 times 10 equals 80. "I get it," he shouted before the number devil could tell him what to do with a 9. "With 9 I make the 10 hop twice," and he wrote 9 times 100 equals 900. "And 1 times 1,000 equals 1,000. And that's a triple hop," he said. "And now for the grand total, 6 plus 80 plus 90 plus 1,000 equals 1986. It's not so hard after all. I don't even need the number devil." "So you don't need the number devil, eh? You're getting too big for your britches, boy. All you've done so far are most ordinary numbers, nothing to write home about. Wait till I start pulling numbers out of my hat. All kinds of numbers, unreal numbers, unreasonable numbers. You have no idea how many kinds of numbers there are. Numbers that run around in circles, numbers that play tricks with your brain, numbers that go on forever." As he spoke, his grin grew wider and wider. Robert could see all the teeth in his mouth. They too seemed to go on forever. And then he started twirling his walking stick in front of Robert's face again. "Help!" Robert screamed and woke up. Still in a daze the next morning, Robert said to his mother, "Do you know how the year I was born? It was 6 times 1 and 8 times 10 and 9 times 100 and 1 times 1,000. "I don't know what's got into the boy lately," said Robert's mother, shaking her head. "Here," she added, handing him a cup of hot chocolate. "Maybe this will help. You say the oddest things." Robert drank his hot chocolate in silence. There were some things you can't tell your mother, he thought.